No cameras, no reporters, just the thick, tense air of the White House, where history often hides behind closed doors. Inside a dimly lit room, the most powerful man in the world, President Richard Nixon, lowered himself onto his knees. He begged, not for mercy, not for glory. He begged Muhammad Ali, the most famous athlete on earth, a man who had defied the government, the war, and public expectation. The sight alone would have stunned the world. The President of the United States, pleading with a single man whose voice and conscience had become larger than life itself. But what Ali did next would not only shock Nixon, it would shake the nation, challenge authority, and define the essence of courage in a way that no one expected. The early 1970s in America were a storm. The Vietnam War was tearing families apart, protests erupted across college campuses, and the country was divided in ways that would haunt generations. Amid this chaos, Muhammad Ali stood as more than a boxer. He had become a symbol, a lightning rod for controversy, a man whose refusal to fight in Vietnam had cost him everything the world said he should value: money, fame, his heavyweight title. But Ali had gained something far more valuable: integrity. While politicians argued over treaties and war strategies, Ali spoke a language that everyone understood: truth, in its most human and uncompromising form. And now, in a quiet room away from public scrutiny, the man who had resisted arrest, imprisonment, and public condemnation faced the ultimate test. The most powerful political figure in America kneeling before him, asking for a concession he might never have imagined. Nixon had called this meeting under the pretense of diplomacy, but desperation was obvious. Every inch of his posture betrayed it: the slight tremble in his hands, the way his eyes darted toward the door as if a guard might suddenly bar him from retreat, the subtle shaking in his voice as he tried to cloak fear with authority. "Muhammad," Nixon began, choosing his words carefully, "America, it needs you. People are unsettled. Your voice, your influence, it could either help heal or create chaos." Each word was measured, but the tension was palpable. Nixon's tone was not that of a president speaking to a citizen. It was that of a man speaking to someone who might very well decide the fate of his legacy. And then, against every rule of protocol, he dropped to his knees, a gesture almost unheard of from a man in his position. The room fell silent, the only sound the faint ticking of a clock, marking seconds that would stretch into eternity for both men. Ali sat, composed, almost statuesque, yet his mind was racing. He had faced threats before: government agencies, media backlash, even the looming shadow of prison, but nothing like this. Nothing that combined the weight of personal appeal with the pressure of national expectation. Nixon's plea was not just for compliance. It was a test of character, a trap for conscience. Ali could feel it in the air. If he said yes, he would regain his title, his fortune, and the favor of a nation. If he said no, he would confirm the fears of millions who already doubted him, and he could risk another decade of political and public hostility. Yet Ali had learned long ago that his life would never be dictated by fear, and that real power lay not in bending, but in standing firm. The conversation shifted. Nixon, realizing words alone were not enough, began to offer tangible incentives: legal relief, restoration of Ali's boxing license, public appearances framed as patriotic service. Every promise was coated in the subtle allure of personal gain, yet Ali detected the trap. He leaned back, his eyes steady, his face calm but unreadable. He thought of the young men being sent to Vietnam, of families torn apart, of the millions watching him from television screens across America. Could he align with a government that had questioned his integrity, punished his stance, and attempted to silence his voice? The answer was clear. Ali had learned that compromise in principle was far more dangerous than any personal loss. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Nixon's knees ached. His voice rose and fell, shifting from pleading to negotiating to threatening in subtle waves. He spoke of patriotism, of national unity, of the dangers of dissent. He tried to humanize himself, to show vulnerability, to appeal to Ali's compassion. But Ali had seen this before. He had faced opponents who tried to intimidate him in the ring and outside of it. The tactics were familiar: fear, flattery, moral manipulation. And yet, for the first time, he faced a man whose power extended far beyond fists or titles. a man whose reach could influence every life in the country. And Ali's response would set the record straight on what it meant to be truly free. He paused, letting the room breathe with tension. Every eye, every nerve, every heartbeat was focused on him. And then he spoke, not with anger, not with malice, but with the quiet authority of someone who knew their own worth. He told Nixon that some things are bigger than titles, bigger than presidents, bigger than fear. He said he could lose belts, money, and years of his prime, but he would never lose himself. Freedom, Ali said, is not a negotiation. It is a stand. It is a refusal to bow when conscience demands one stay upright. Nixon, kneeling before him, stared in disbelief. The president had come with an expectation that Ali would bend, but the boxer remained unshakable, a force of moral gravity that no office, power, or threat could diminish. When Ali finally rose from his chair, he did so with dignity, grace, and quiet triumph. He shook Nixon's hand, thanked him for his time, and walked out of the room. The silence that followed was deafening. Nixon sat frozen, absorbing the reality that he had just witnessed something unprecedented, a refusal not born of defiance alone, but of principle. Ali's walk from that room was more than a literal step. It was symbolic, echoing across America and into history books. In that moment, a man who had been vilified, imprisoned, and mocked became untouchable, not in the sense of fame or money, but in moral stature. The public never learned the full story. The press saw Ali return to boxing, victorious in the ring, beloved by fans worldwide, and seemingly unstoppable. What they didn't see was the negotiation of conscience, the test of character, and the quiet, almost spiritual battle that had taken place in the Oval Office. Ali didn't just fight opponents in the ring. He fought systems, fear, and temptation itself. He showed the world that true power is not measured by wealth or influence, but by the courage to stand firm when the stakes are highest. By refusing to yield to Nixon, Ali reminded a divided nation of something it often forgets. Integrity is priceless, and no amount of pressure can buy a soul committed to justice.